Right, we're back with Villaincast with Chris Paines, and this is Reap the Week with El Jefe and the Villain. I think we're on episode 8 of the podcasts now, which is goddamn amazing. I'm amazed that we've actually had enough content and guests to even get this far.
Yep.
But, dude, amazing.
It's
Anyway,
flown.
shout out to the sponsors first. Still don't have any. This I need to like add to this. It's a joke. It's like there's the amount of podcasts out there that do have them, and they spend the first 10 minutes going through their sponsors.
Yeah.
I felt left out.
It's sad.
So actually, as always, thank you to the Patreon. They do keep the lights on, I think. Possibly. They keep the lights on the microphone at least. There is, because this has already been mentioned, we are looking at actually releasing some merch in the next couple of weeks.
Oh,
so,
yes.
Yeah, I know, right? So please keep an eye on that for
Keep an eye, yeah.
merchandise. Right, so this podcast is one we do every week, myself and Naqi, and we take questions off the Discord channel. There's a link to that in the description. Please click on it if you want to join the discussion, ask questions. I do read it. I read pretty much all of it. I might not comment all the time, but I love the discussion that's happening and the growth that's happening in that. And Naki's always on it, right? Replying to everything. So I asked the question, what do you guys want to know? And I'm going to ignore it initially because I have other things I want to talk about. So I think I mentioned this in the last podcast with Reap the Week. It wasn't the one with Johnny Buck, although definitely go check that one out. Is a hoot.
Yeah, that's a good episode. That is. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, same here. I love doing it. I love just talking to Johnny in general. So one thing I think I touched on in the last episode of Naqi was the idea of a competition mindset. So what we do for like competition prep. And there's always I will link into this as well if I can. My good friend Josh McKinney, who was on one of the other podcasts I did the other week, he has done a little episode on competition prep. So definitely go check that out. I'm going to try and add to what he said with some of my competition prep. I know Naki's competed a bit as well. I have competed on Grapplefest, which is the event run by Chris Thompson. It has had decent names on it. We have had Craig Jones appear on it, and Tess Denise, Imanari, I think, was on it as well. It's nuts that he's managed to get these names across, and somehow I managed to feature on it as well. And Naqi, and another one of our guys, Henry, who has since left us. Not because he's just a blue belt, he left to go to Iceland. So competition mindset. I've competed hundreds of times over the years. And fear, I'm not sure. Maybe fear is the word. Stress, anxiety, all those, I don't know, like competition like walk on the mat blues. I've always tried to find a way of like dealing with that. And the way I eventually settled on, I think that's what made Naqi laugh last week, because he remembers like how I do it, is I don't actually change my prep in the gym prior. Maybe, I don't know, keep myself healthy, so tapping earlier to submissions. I don't want to break anything prior to competing. Obviously make sure my diet is good. I'll get more into that in a minute. I had a really cool discussion with all my students the other day, ex-boxer, on this very subject. And what I want to focus on is actually what I do prior to walking on the mats. This was, I think, what made Naqi laugh, is because he's been there supporting me when I've actually done this. I don't warm up. I don't drill random things prior. I might listen to a bit of music. I usually do. But one thing I definitely do is have a nap. Like I just go to sleep. So I find out when I'm supposed to be competing. Get a rough time frame for that. I then go find a corner, put my hood up, and I fall asleep. Um, I know, and it's like instead of building like if you've been awake that day, you're probably warm. And if I was to say to you, go roll, like walk in, just go, like do a bit of a stretch and go roll, you probably would do it. So why is it you go for this insane warm-up routine prior to a competition? It doesn't really make much sense apart from the fact that you're just going to be like stressing yourself out in a weird way. So instead, I just nap. I know if I've moved around that day, I'm not going to tear anything. It's all mental preparation. You're physically capable if you regularly roll. So then I have my nap, and then wake up, and I have a little notepad with me, and I write down my hopes and dreams. So no, it's kind of I take what's in my control.
Yeah, I love it when you explain that to me, and I was like, wow. But
yeah, so
I understand it. I understand it.
Exactly. It's kind of like it changes the mindset away from dealing with what they're going to do and moves it over to imposing what you want to do. One thing actually before I carry on, Naqi, do I keep cutting out?
No.
Does it sound pretty like static? Like,
yeah.
Because on my side, it might just be my headphones that are being a bit shit then. Anyway, yeah, so I write down my hopes and dreams. I write down what I want to do, not what I want to not let them do. It just changes the mindset entirely. Instead of focusing on what's out of my control, I move things into what I want to do and look at it from a positive way. I want to do this. I am going to do this. And I write it in my little journal, notepad, whatever. I then put on some music that I could dance to. Like everyone has their walkout music and it's supposed to like psych you up. And that's like, I remember we had Dan Strauss. Hopefully, actually, I should have Dan Strauss appearing on a podcast in the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to hopefully talk to him a bit more about this. But he came to our gym and did a seminar, and I asked him, well, it was asked of him, what did you do to prepare for competitions? And he mentioned something about becoming the raspberry ape and this like different persona. And that's something that I've then kind of taken on board is before I walk on, I try and enter this kind of mindset of a asshole. Like I want to play. And so I listen to music that makes me want to play. And all that, it's like, it's taken out so much of the stress. And that's all I ever care about is taking out the stress pre-fight. I'm physically capable if I've been rolling and I'm healthy and I haven't cut too much weight. So what's the problem? And people have asked this question, like, well, what are you, you're not worried about injury because you roll in the gym to the death. You'll black out, you'll have your limbs broken. So that's not an issue. You're not worried about necessarily what people think of you, really, because like your gym family will still be there afterwards. So it's just a nonsensical thing that happens to you. Like, do you feel like you're standing in the world is going to go down or something, and things feel out of your control? Maybe that's it, but I try and then limit that. And after 100, 200 times of stepping on and competing, that seems to be the most healthy way I've managed to take this. And one last part before I let Naqi jump in with his thoughts. I was speaking to this ex-boxer student of mine, and he was saying that just before, hopefully he listens to this. Hey, Brad. We were talking about the idea that, well, he was saying that before he retired from boxing, he was just taking any fight, like even if he was just like getting his head kicked in. And this actually then kind of steps onto how McGregor said he'd have like, I think it was McGregor, he said like how he had like reckless nights before some fights, or like John Jones would get wrecked before some of his big fights, or even the recent one with Paulo Costa, say like getting drunk on wine, before his biggest fight of Izzy. And yeah, that's on the main stage, and that's obviously huge. But can that be on a lower level as well? And I think it is, because I did something similar. I wasn't going out getting wrecked. I always took the fight seriously, but I take any open weight fight. So even at purple belt, I was entering like no-gi, black belt open weight divisions, mostly because there wasn't many people around in the north to compete with, but also just because if I lost, well, who cares? I was a small underdog. 2 belts down and 3 or 4 weight categories too small. But if I won, no, I was the king. And that's something that this student of mine was saying, was that he was taking any of these fights and just like going for it, because if he lost, well, who cares? He took a fight on like a couple of days' notice and the ones he shouldn't have taken.
Yeah.
But if he won, then he was the king. And I always find that the fights I did my worst in were the ones where it was the most fair. That was the ones where I had the most stress, because that was the ones where I couldn't say I was unhealthy or anything, because I took it fight seriously. I couldn't say I was the smaller one or the lower belt or anything, because those weren't excuses. So if it was a failure, it was a failure on me. And so that's why I had to come up with these different management techniques to try and get rid of the stress another way. But in my earlier days, like middle of the road, like purple belt competing, I just take any fight, any size, any belt, just because if I lost, who cared? Like, smaller guy. So I don't know how that shapes into advice.
Yeah, I think competition prep and all this, it's a personal one, isn't it? Because everybody's different. But I think it's a process you have to find yourself. And I think there's no right answer. I think it's what you find yourself that works. And it comes through it.
Definite techniques, because I was reading a lot of like how like American footballers and people like that will like prep and stuff like that. So I think I got some of the ideas off that. I think that as well, like just listen to like Donald Cerrone. He was always a good one for like listening to, because he always like his biggest fight. Like, he's obviously world class, like ass kicker. But his biggest fights are the ones he kind of like stuffs it. Like he panics and he has his worst one. So there's definitely like the ones where he thinks he's gonna win, he does better in.
Yeah.
Carry on. I jumped in.
No, it's okay. But anyway, but for me, like, it was a process which I had to find, because I used to do these crazy warm-ups that I didn't used to do in the gym, and just on a competition day, I was like, yeah, I'll do this, I'll do that, because it was just inexperience. And then as it carried on, and the more fights that I had at blue belt and moving on from that, I just went into the because obviously I saw you compete, and I was like chilled out, and I was just doing what I do when I go to the gym and warm up, and I was just doing my little stretches and little mobility stuff, and that's what I started doing for my fights, and I was doing all right, and I'm like, I'm happy with this, I'm getting some performance here, it's got stuff to work on, and I didn't have the problem where when I started, where I was always getting anxious, and didn't know how to control the nerves. That was the main thing. I mean, I remember my first fight, in gi as well. And my mouth went dry, man. I was like, fuck, I haven't experienced this before. I'm like, you fight in the street, it'd be a bit different, but it's like you're looking at the man there, the ref calling you on, and you're like, you're going to fight in a second. I'm like, oh, this is going to happen. And I don't know, I just couldn't process it, but it was a weird one. Can you remember what happened in my first fight, Chris, or not? In gi.
Didn't you win that competition?
Yeah, I won it, but I got bronze in gi and gold in no gi. But
that was it.
My first fight, the guy went for like a single leg, and I jumped into his knee. I don't know why or how it happened, but it was like 10 seconds in, and like the medic's calling, oh, medic. Can you remember that picture?
Oh, yeah, I can.
Yeah. And that was my first fight, and I was like, what the hell is going on here? You know what I mean? So that was a bit weird one for me. But then after that, the competitions that I did after that at white belt, I was still doing the crazy, warm up, but that I wasn't doing. And then I was starting matches, not feeling myself, because it was something different to what I wouldn't do in the gym. And going back to what you were saying, so what I found now is that I just do what I would usually do when I go to the gym, because then it's no different. You know what I mean? And that if you're thinking about worried about injury or worried about getting limbs broken, that happens in the gym. You know what I mean? We've experienced that. Any experienced competitor has got some sort of a little niggle here and there. Nobody's injury free.
No, exactly. Well,
So
one thing that I started to do was that I try and associate the happy times, the best roles I'd have in the gym. Like I'd have actually like there'd be songs that like I'd just lose my shit on.
yeah,
And I'd make sure I listen to those songs. I couldn't have them as my warm like walkout songs because like
yeah.
You Make My Dreams Come True by Hall & Oates isn't a great walkout song. So I'd have something on like to make it look like I was serious.
You've seen it when I roll and Still Dre comes on. That's it. You're dancing.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like, so I'd make sure I'd listen to those songs because then I was like in that mindset of like I was attaching the two things together. So it was like just being back in the gym.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of, like, I think that's one thing that again helped you. We actually did I was curious, like maybe it was about 6-7 years ago. I did a test where it was before your time. It was before we kind of grew as a gym, and there were people who like were more experienced and people who were less experienced. And whenever someone more experienced rolled with someone they thought they could beat, they'd bring out their A game.
Yeah.
But when they thought they were like, that's when they'll roll at their absolute best, do their best moves, like best movement, and be like fluid and all this kind of stuff. But the second I just put them with someone who is they perceived as better,
yeah,
they like went into their shell. Like even before like the other person didn't have to do anything. Like they didn't have to even move. Like, just literally sit on the floor, and that person would automatically go into their shell. Like that's how like much fear would take over them. That like their transitions would be sloppy and everything like that.
Yeah.
And so that kind of goes back to it was kind of a fun thing with you, is that because you've always just been like a killer in the gym. Like you've got this like local legend status where no one enjoys rolling with you at any belt, and you've had that since you're like a high white belt.
You're making me sound like this bad guy. What are you doing, Chris?
Because like you move like a silverback, and it's goddamn terrifying. Like when you get going, like I'd rather step in front of a bus than carry on our roll. But you've had that for a long time. I remember you competing at role models in Stoke.
Yeah.
And the way you danced on that blue belt, like you like harassed that kid.
Oh yeah.
I think that's because like you again just thought he was of a lesser species.
Nah, man,
so
I've always had this. I've grown up like it's Stoke, man. It was not being. It's if people don't know Stoke, it's like it's a good little city, but it's very deprived and
a little bit.
There's a lot of racism. Well, it had a lot of racism, but over the years it got better. And I went to predominantly. I went to a Catholic school, and it was predominantly white. Like the first year sevens that went in, it was our group where there was about 13, 14 of us, and we had to go through shit. You know what I mean? And I'm not like I said before, I'm not a saint. I've done things and I've had fights on the street, and it's different. But I've always been intrigued with fighting. Like I think it was always in me, like from a young age, and I wanted to pursue it. I always wanted to like learn to fight, and I knew like what happens on the street and what the professionals do is completely different. You know what I mean? And I wanted to learn it in that way. So I'd never would stand in front of someone and think, oh, he's better than me. You know what I mean? Because I've already lost in my head. It's a psychological thing, I think. And like you said, I think when people go into that shell, I would put myself in a shell probably and not perform like I should. And I think as I've progressed through my career in jiu-jitsu, I've learned how to like read now. And remember when you were talking about entering the matrix and stuff, and since you've said that, I'm always thinking about that now, where it's not always, it's a mind game, it's a mental game. You got to slow down, you got to think about things. So I try to do that a lot now, and it's working out.
Yeah.
So I'm going to crack on with it, hopefully.
You've definitely come on more, like, you since I've known you, but just like I remember the first inklings of that, like when you had those early fights, and I have to put that video up somewhere of like what you did to that blue belt. You literally surfed him across the floor.
Yeah, it was. I didn't want to, but I was like, can you remember that was my first competition back after when I tore my ear? Can you remember?
Yes, I remember. Yeah, because you
Yeah,
were
so
smashing that kid until your ear almost came off.
yeah, I was like, man, just let me carry on. I don't want to get DQ'd. I've got a gold medal on the line here, Rob, and he DQ'd me. I would have carried on, man. If just taped my ear.
Doctor stoppage.
But yeah, anyway, so I was like, it was like, I think I competed about 6 or 7 months later, and I was like, this is my first competition, what's going to happen? Because I had that fear in the back of my mind. So I didn't want to take any chances. So I just flipped. I thought, I'm not going to mess around anymore. And I just went for it, man. And I think since I've had that attitude, I'm like very confident competing now. Like, I'm all right. Whereas before I used to be like, I used to find things or try and find things, that would help me to, calm down a bit. But now it's like, just do your thing, and switching to that alter ego, you know what I mean? Like, I've got to flip this switch now.
Yeah. Actually, and this I kind of think goes into like creating this alternate persona kind of thing in relation to when you have people who go out and get excuses before their big events, like going out and getting wrecked or whatever it is. Generating a different persona, it's like you didn't lose. Like in your head, if you could be so strong with that, it's like you didn't lose, it was the persona that lost, because you have a stage act, and if the stage act fucks up, like, who cares? It was a stage act that fucked up. So you can kind of disassociate the two things in your head. So it's one thing I'm currently playing with, but obviously limited in that due to the Rona. But it's one thing actually I remember doing just prior to like everything going nuts. So I was in Israel, in Tel Aviv. It was the first time I went over, and I was with Charles, Harriet. Listen to that podcast if anyone's listening. And so literally about a day before I was due to fly out to Israel to teach a seminar at Octopus BJJ Academy Tel Aviv, they said, "Oh, it's the Israeli national championships or something."
Oh yeah, that was a crazy story.
So I was like, "Oh, cool." And they said, "Yeah, we've got a few guys competing." I was like, "Awesome." And they went, "Yeah, we've booked you a super fight." Cool. Who against? Oh, is an Israeli black belt. It's like one of the most well-known Israeli MMA fighters. I was like, "Oh, cool. Awesome." So I flew over, and like, I think I had a day out there. I'm supposed to be teaching a seminar, and it was on this defensive BJJ. And the worst thing to do is to go over and do a seminar and then get wiped out before you teach defensive BJJ ideas. But and these guys, these guys didn't know me. It was like, Charles like vouched for me and stuff. It turns out this is like the main event of like the whole thing. And so I did my thing. So I got there, and with Shaul and Inat, and I went for a nap. And I'd never been in a place that had like 40-degree heat. For Christ's sake, I'm from England. But it's like 40 degrees, and it's loads of people I don't know in a place I'm not familiar with, and also now the main event. Charles has just fought, and now Charles's fight was hilarious. Like, he was like giving this kid grief for like 15 minutes or however long it was, and just before the fight, like, Charles is lovely. He was saying, what can I do? And I was like, don't reap. They don't look like they're into reaping here. And so we went for this whole thing, and then literally like he's like up on points. He's been smoking, this poor guy. And about, I don't know, 5 seconds before the win, it was literally that stupid, like 5 seconds, he reaps and gets DQ'd.
Wow.
Like, for God's sake, Charles.
He did that on purpose, I'm sure.
And he was so sad afterwards. He like flipped off at the referee, and I was like, this is so funny.
Oh man,
what made it worse is that like there was a big trophy at the end. So when I won mine, like, spoilers, he was like, "Oh man, I didn't know we were going to get a trophy." But then my fight came up, so it was like the main event. Like, I was this foreign invader in Israel, and they I went for my pre-fight nap, and apparently they were looking for me, like, fuck's Chris, like, oh yeah, he's behind those bleachers over there having a nap, and they're like, what? He's supposed to be fighting, isn't he going to warm up? No, he just wants to have a sleep. So I literally woke up, walked down to the mats, and fought this dude, and I put this persona on. I remember at one point there's like a video on my Instagram of like me like getting in like a Kimura grip and then just looking at the side of the mats, just laughing.
Yeah,
because my persona is an asshole. I am an asshole, but I make more of an asshole when I do this. And like, they start laughing as well. It was like a lot of fun, and I think I tapped him again because of this part of me that's a dickhead. Is I tapped him with side control pressure into his ribs. And they're like, what the hell did he beat him with? Like, he just crushed him. Like, but that was it at play. At no point did I feel zapped, despite the circumstances, I should feel something. There was no zapping or anything like that. It's like, it wasn't experience in the sense of I've just done enough fights that I don't get scared anymore. Like, if you don't get scared, there's something wrong with you. Yeah. But it was more the management techniques and that inflicting this persona on the poor guy. Just felt easy. Just felt like it was a regular role in the gym. And so if anyone's like listened to any of this, like, take some of these ideas, like, I can kind of vouch for them, and I'd love to hear different competitors. If you want to go into the Discord channel and add your own ideas, I'd love to hear this, because it's obviously such a big part of jiu-jitsu, and it's such a hard part of jiu-jitsu to kind of get over. I mean, I think I remember telling you when you first started competing, Naq, like, you can go 45 minutes in the gym, you can roll like a motherfucker, but you will get dry mouth, your arms and legs will die,
forearms, man, burn.
Yeah, your jiu-jitsu knowledge will regress by about 90%, like to about 2 or 3 years before where you are currently at. I was actually I'm going to put him under the bus here. I did have one student years ago. We fought in like the Staffordshire Open, so it was like a really small local competition. And he keeps going into guard, and the guy was like big on Kimuras in the gym anyway. He was like known for them. He keeps going into guard and keeps going for the same Kimura and the same arm on this dude. Like, he just locks his full guard up and just keeps going with the same Kimura. And the guy's like, stop going for the Kimura. Like, I know what you're going for. And he was like, haha, well, the other 8 times hasn't worked, but this time you won't see the Kimura. I was like, looking at the ref, like, I need to run on. I think one of my students is having a breakdown. I think he's having some sort of like stroke or something. Like, he's not well. I need to go help him, because he keeps going for the same technique. So this idea that your brain, like, your technique regresses, like, yeah, he hit just like this horrible little wall that he just got to, like, stuck in like Groundhog Day, and this one technique from the same position. We've kind of killed that one, so hopefully people take some of it. But that kind of leads me nicely onto, we had a question on the Discord. It's kind of nice how this kind of fits in how to like tire someone out. Like, is there stuff you can do to tire someone out? It seems like an odd question, but I've actually got like a decent-ish, I don't know if anything I say is decent response to what he's asked. And this kind of goes into the competition mindset again. Yeah. And I'm going to give away the family secrets right now. So anyone who's listening, like, avert your ears. I don't know. So I remember being at this role models competition, a small local competition in Staffordshire, and I remember watching the blue belts try and kill each other. I remember watching these 2 blue belts go balls to the wall, like throwing the most insane like mounted arm bars and stuff like that, and they'd go for it, their back would hit the floor, and the other person would just like escape, spring up, because they were wank blue belts, and like they'd pass the guard, get him out, and then this other kid would go for an arm bar, something stupid like that, and he'd fuck up his technique, and it was so backwards and forwards. It was like mental to watch, but mind-numbing at the same time. And what I kind of realized, so I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in one of the other podcasts, me and Naqi spoke about this prior to us starting to record this, is there is a logic to the point system in jiu-jitsu. I know it's decried a lot, and people are like erring more towards submission only, and yeah. But there is a logic to it. I think Danaher or someone much more important than me said it, is you imagine it from a fight perspective. I'm pretty sure it was Danaher. You take someone down, you've taken them into the world of jiu-jitsu. Why do you take people down? It's because you limit their athleticism. And that's why jiu-jitsu works. That's why we fight on the ground, because you've taken away their ability to move. Once you've taken them, that's 2 points. Once you've taken them down, you then have to get past their legs, which is the most dangerous part of a human body. Even though I've taken you down, you can still kick me and do an awful lot of damage. So passing the guard, passing the legs is worth 3 points because you have passed the most important part of their body. You then go through a hierarchy of controls that allow you to punch them in the face. Side control is worth nothing because you can't really punch him that well. Knee on belly, semi-okay base to start wailing on them. 2 points. 4 points on that rear mount because you can just go to town on them. So there is a logic to the point system. Obviously, no points for reversals or anything like that, which, okay, maybe it is to punish wrestlers, but, if you reverse someone into, like, from side control to side control, you're still in a position where you can't punch them. So you're going to get your points when you start doing more punchy-based positions. And that's why you don't really get points for being on your back, apart from sweeping, because you then use your legs to take them into a place where you can now start punching them again effectively. So that's like the semi-logic, I think, to the point system. So how does that work then when it comes to tiring people out? It's like muscle recruitment. If you lose on points, I like the idea that, people say, oh yeah, but I lost on points, I'm sure I'd win eventually with a submission. Well, in a points like system, if you apply that kind of logic, forgetting the idea of advantages, you would have been punched more. In theory, the person with the more points delivered more punches. And so being on top, jiu-jitsu teaches the idea of being on top, being the guy on top. We have great guard, but be the guy on top. That's where the majority of the points come from, because that's where you deliver the most punches. But also you make the other person carry you. And I think that's the important part about tiring people out. Is that it's way, way easier to be the guy on top. You do not have to be like carrying another person and getting exhausted, because your muscle recruitment's a lot less. We are bipedal, and we are efficient of moving on our legs. We are not very efficient moving on our backs. Even playing, like, if I ask you to keep guard like on your own for 3 minutes, your abs and your hip flexors will die, and you will hate me forever. And that's not even being affected. But I'll ask you to stand upright for 2 minutes, you'll be fine. And so this idea of tiring people out, if your idea to tire someone out is from the bottom, you're going to have a hard time. Like, core jiu-jitsu philosophy, be the guy on top. Our point system works in that way. Fighting wise, you do a lot more damage to the guy on top if you're allowed to hit them, MMA wise, etc. There's always outlying shit, like people getting submitted from the bottom and hit from the bottom. But by and large, don't be on your back.
I mean, last night there was a prime example in Islam Makhachev versus Drew Dober. Did you watch it?
I haven't yet. No, you can spoil it. I know we'll put that out there now. Like, spoilers. I'm sure Naqi will spoil this fight. So please leave for a couple of minutes before he matters to you. Well, this could be listen to in the future, and it doesn't matter anymore. Carry on, dude.
It's happened, so people know anyway. They must have gone onto Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, man, it was like, it's Khabib, man. Like, he just took him down, and he was on top. That's all he was. And he flued him from half guard.
Oh, man, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah, like his head was underneath his arm, and like it wasn't even a proper arm triangle, and from half guard. And if you look at his back, he was massive, and he was just. I think mentally Dober was done as well, because of the amount of pressure he was putting on him in rounds 1 and 2. You could just see him like a minute before, like when he takes him down, and you can see it in Doba's face, like, oh mate, I've had enough now. And he just,
Yeah.
when he gets that half attempt at the submission, I don't even think he was going for it. I think he was just pressuring him to get past. And I think Doba just tapped. He's like, I've had enough of this now.
Yeah.
And go straight into that. He was the guy on top. Khabib was always the guy on top. You know, it's been proven.
Well, exactly. That's why wrestlers, you know, in jiu-jitsu, when they've learned how to guard pass, are so miserable to like roll with, because as good as our bottom game is, and reversals and, you know, regarding and stuff like that, it is way more muscle recruitment. And the more muscle recruitment you have, the more tired you're going to be. It's a fact. Like, if you're on top, you don't have to do much. Like, you can relax and just lie on top of someone in a good place and exhaust them.
Tire the legs off.
One of the main things you have to learn in jiu-jitsu is how to fight from the bottom in a way that you find, you know, going to Preet's wording here, trenches, that you can just be comfortable in and be comfortable in misery. So you're not burning your muscles out constantly at a constant pace. You find the right timing to use correct, maybe minor explosive or major explosive movements to reverse the points process, as in you go back to a guard or something and go from there. I mean, the whole idea of jiu-jitsu is to be less energy intensive from the bottom. That's why we don't do big bridges and stuff. That's why we have a regard. But it's always been about be the guy on top. Like, you know, if you're, even from a guard perspective, like this idea, you can maybe mentally tire someone out and make them make more mistakes, but physically, you know, if you're on your back playing guard and someone's on top in either open guard or something, yeah, they're the person who is in more danger, maybe, because you are inflicting control points on them, but you're still the guy on the bottom. Like, your muscle recruitment is a lot more than theirs is.
Yeah.
It's still going to be way more exhausting. They can like stall and you'd still probably get more tired. And this kind of like, you know, when I said about giving away the family secrets, I know I kind of left that one. So going back to these blue belts, I remember I probably said this to you. I know I've said this to you in the gym before, but I remember saying it to Abbas. And anyone who listened to this, like, Abbas is one of my students. He is phenomenally violent, to put it mildly. And after watching these blue belts, I kind of have a good ponder, and I thought, right then, taking into consideration the points aspect, taking into consideration muscle recruitment and tiredness, I said to him, when you know, I don't care what you do in the gym, explore. Jiu-jitsu is fun, but if you want to win competition, do not do anything that requires you to put your back on the floor at all. Why are you laughing?
Oh, mate, because I know what's coming. I remember that I was watching that.
Yeah, dude. So I said to him, like, you know, I don't care if it's the most sound submission in the world. Like, okay, submission only competitions and no time limits, cool. Let's go for leg locks and go crazy and play guard submissions. But in a IBJJF regular ruling kind of competition, I prefer this kind of mentality. Do not do a single submission if you want to win that requires you to put your back on the floor. Even if it's the most sweet looking S-mount armbar that's about to arrive, don't do it. Because if you fuck up, you are on your back. And now you're in guard. And the only thing that's going to save you from losing points is them not passing. You have to get your sweep or a submission. That's energy intensive. So if they spin from the bottom of mount, you let them. You take their back. If you have their back and they spin again, you let them. You take mount again. Because it's the most horrible feeling in the world to get someone's back, end up on your back, and they slip your foot or slip your grip or something, and they turn around and you're back in guard. And so I said, right, I just want you to stay on top. Just whatever you like, go, like, get mount, work for this dominant position mentality, and go for cross X chokes, cross guard or whatever's. If at any point he bridges, you release your choke and you return to your choke, like, because then what have you lost? Position before submission. Everyone says this, and it was like, especially as a white belt who just loved hurting people, like, this idea of position before submission was like what are these like jiu-jitsu people talking about? Like, that's boring. But it started to make a way more sense to me at like brown belt level. As in, if you don't have a good position back behind your submission attempt and you fuck up your submission, you've lost everything.
Yeah.
You should be able to find positions where if you do your submission and it goes wrong, you can return to your position because you have not lost anything. You have not lost your muscle recruitment or anything like that. You are still in a position to go back to what you just attempted. Whereas if you give up your position to go for a submission and you fuck your submission, you've given up everything. And now you're going to get tired.
Yeah, it's mentally draining as well, ain't it? Not just physically, but mentally as well.
Well, that's the problem. Like, okay, so say you are, you did a wicked takedown and you are, you got 2 points for the takedown, 3 points for the guard pass. So you're at 5. And then you get mount, you're at 9.
Yeah.
Okay. This person then looks across and like, motherfucker. Like they look at the scorecard, it's 1 minute in, they're 9 points down and they're under you. They're getting tired now. Their muscle recruitment's a lot higher and the defender's submissions. And it's just mentally draining as well, seeing that you're already down on points. And then you, in your stupidity, think, cool, I'm going to go for this cool armbar. It's going to look awesome on Instagram afterwards. You fluff it. You now end up in guard. They pass your guard. Now it's 9-3. Now they get knee on belly. It's 9-5. And then they slip to mount. It's now 9-9. And you're the person on bottom. Your muscle movement's higher. You've given up your points and you fucked up the submission.
Yeah, and the clock is ticking.
Exactly. Now we've only got 2.5 minutes left. And so you're going to be panicking more. Your muscle recruitment's going to go higher and everything just kind of goes out the window. And so taking this then back into like stuff you can just use in the gym, you don't have to roll like it's a competition, but having that competition mindset in the gym does help for energy expenditure, not giving up stupid shit, not giving up a position to get a submission, because if you fuck it up, you are giving away everything. You are going to get more tired. So keeping this kind of mindset of position before submission, this actually goes really nice into what the last part of this is about, one-liners. I always heard position over submission. Didn't know what it meant until that kind of figured out. I think I read it on the inside of one of my gis. Like it was written as a formula. It might have been like a 93 brand gi. And that was the moment I suddenly went, oh, I get jiu-jitsu now. How to leave a review, like, out of everything I ever learned via videos, this gi helped me the most of understanding jiu-jitsu.
Position for submission.
I read the inside of a gi and it fixed.
Before you carry on, though, aren't you going to tell them what happened in that fight, that Abbas's fight, the one you on about?
Yeah, man. Like he won like 27-0 and still choked the guy, didn't he?
Yeah, at the end.
Like the guy was just spinning on the bottom, and Abbas was just like retaking the position every single time, and he won like that dude was like broken as a human being by the end of that, because I think he just had Abbas ride him for like 5.5 minutes and then got choked anyway. Like he was like definitely the point spread was like not fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that giving that mindset, and I think that as well, like because one of our earlier problems as a gym, I think before we actually started incorporating this kind of mentality, is that we'd either win on submission or lose on points. That's the only way it ever
that's
went.
The only way we were losing points.
Exactly. And I think that was probably the reasons that I wasn't pushing this kind of mentality of, no, you go on top. Like, I don't care. Like, you are just the man on top. Because that's the only place really in jiu-jitsu you can actually earn points anyway.
Yeah.
It's also the place that you have less muscle recruitment. And you do not go for a submission that requires you to have your back on the floor. Submission only, couldn't care less. Like, go nuts. Like, if you've got good pacing and you can and self-management and good cardio control, and like going back to the competition mindset I said earlier, that you can control your fear really well. No, go nuts. Like, choose whatever position you want. Have fun. Yeah. But if you are white belt, blue belt, purple belt, you still have competition nerves. I say stick to this. Like, you'll find more happiness here, because everyone just wants a medal photo. Why? I'm not entirely sure. It looks good on Instagram, maybe. And that's way better than going for the slick armbar and fucking it and failing and then not getting a medal at all. Go nuts in the gym. Do whatever makes you happy. But in competition, the thing that makes you happy is having that medal at the end. So stick to a decent game plan. And that's usually a good game plan. Abbas like smoked that poor guy. That was unfair.
It was.
I think Bryony did the same as well. Like, so Bryony's a girl
Oh
who's
yes,
turned out a gym.
yeah.
Like she's a gymnast, and so her mind body connection is outstanding as it is. And like, I remember it was a first competition, and I was pretty much just living through her. It was like her being a puppet. I was like, Bryony, put your right hand here. And this poor girl on the bottom's like looking at me like, this isn't fair.
She was a blue belt, wasn't she, that girl?
Yeah. So it was Bryony's first competition. She entered the open weight blue belt absolute. And, I think I was a brown belt at the time. And I was like, Bryony, put your hand here. And there it would go. And this poor girl's looking at me thinking, like, I'm fighting a physical specimen being piloted by a brown belt. Like, not coached, piloted. Like, this girl is crushing. This isn't fair. And yeah, she again, it was just that same mentality. She was just bang on top, keeping on top, just crushing constantly. And those poor girls were getting hammered.
Yeah, she won. She got gold, didn't she?
Yeah, she did. Blue belt absolute in her first competition as a white belt. Not fair. So the final part then.
One-liners.
Actually, no. Well, so what are your thoughts on that? Because I know, going back to this idea of muscle recruitment and tiredness, because I know whenever we roll, I do like playing guard with you. Is that why you are more explosive when I pass your guard? Because you do not like me being on top at all.
Yeah. I want to be on top always, because when I roll with you, I try to have my competition kind of game. I always work my competition game when I play when we roll. Like, I'm always working on things that I would do in competition. Obviously, with other guys, I always play. But with you, I told you the other week, I said, if before COVID, we were like rolling, and I was like, I can't play, because you're catching me. And I'm like, I can't play. I have to go competition, pace and play a game that I would play in competition. So, when I'm on the bottom and when you start passing, I'm like, no, I'm going to get back. I don't want to let him play, because if he starts playing, then it's going to be a bad day.
Yeah. Well, that was like the thing about it is that, I'm the exact same in that whenever you get close to passing my guard, like I would rather fight hard for like 10 seconds to not let you get any sort of dominant position than allow you to settle and then me have to carry you for an unknown amount of time. Because like, holy hell, especially again, like the way you move, it's just miserable. And I regret teaching you pressure. Like,
it was the best thing
transition
ever.
was the stupidest thing I ever taught you. Like, because now I'm getting the brunt of it. And yeah, it goes back to that whole competition kind of mindset, is that I'd rather have, 5 seconds of holy shit guard retention trying to stop you than 4 minutes of carrying you in side control and mount.
Yeah.
That's I think this idea of like having philosophical one-liners that we're about to go on to definitely wasn't a one-liner, but definitely something to take away from this. Like, that is I'd say that's quite a useful training tool to have in the bank. Like, the problem with jiu-jitsu is that, it's all, I had this talk with Josh on the podcast, is that with the rise of TikTok or Instagram or Tickstagram or whatever it's called, like the minus 1 minute clips and people just want to see that the mad shit. Like, they want to see that and I guess we've always been like that, when Eddie Bravo arrived and Twisters arrived and everyone's like, God damn cool. And now it's just kind of condensed more into this like nuggets of insanity that people want to pull out. And there's like, positions gone completely out the window because they're upside down with their like right hand up their own arsehole and the left leg up their arsehole, and who knows what the fuck is happening. But yeah, okay, jiu-jitsu is fun in the gym, and I love doing that stuff as much as anyone. Like going onto my head and then chasing someone whilst on my head in a headstand is fun for me. But there is no way in God's earth I'd be doing that in a points-based competition that mattered. Like, yeah, don't like have a competition. What competition? Have an idea what competition means.
Yeah.
Like not like in the sense of like go hard like in your roles, but you know, just the correct kind of positioning to be, the correct places to be. This position over submission mindset. I think it's critical. So finally, then, because we have been chuntering on this one, dude. I know,
man.
Like, sorry.
Can I say one last thing though?
Yeah, go for it.
Because as you were saying, so I remember something. Because I know there's a lot of this thing at the moment where there's instructions, I believe now as well, mindset and stuff, where people are talking about mindset. And I don't know how people feel about that, but I think it's your own journey. You got to experience. You got to walk through the fire and figure yourself out and have your game. Rather than, I know listening to other people you'll incorporate things that they've done and they might work for you, but I think you got to walk through the fire and you'll come out at the end of the tunnel. You find yourself, and I think if people can start, maybe that's what's worked for me, and I think that's what's worked for you as well. I think, Chris, and it's maybe not a universal thing. It's just find it yourself.
It's like a coachability thing. I think this kind of stretches across to like most aspects of life, is that we are the worst at taking advice.
Yeah.
Like, say if like, I don't know, you've imagine you're in a bad relationship or something, like your mate says to you like, dude, get out of it. Like, you'd be saying the same thing to them in their situation, but you're not going to listen to them.
Yeah.
Like, even though it's the right thing, like they're like, I know you're with a crazy person or something. Like, we are the worst at taking our own advice. Like, it's if you're having a fucking
you always want the other person's opinion, don't you? What they think.
Yeah. Like,
which isn't always a bad thing, but I think when it's something so personal, I think
yeah, like it's a coachability across your life, as in how much can you step out your own ass and look at yourself from the third person and actually apply things correctly.
Self-reflection.
Yeah, so as much as and I think physically it's easier to do. It's easier to be coached physically and actually do things, but mentally coached, like, it's so damn hard. And so being able to say to these things, like, I know half these things that we say in this podcast, like that, especially this episode of like competition mindset, like do this, like it's like training someone mentally is like, there's no way that someone's going to take everything I've just said and just like incorporate it. Like, it's so hard. It's a definite skill to be able to have your mind coached to do the correct thing as much as you can be physically coached. That the two are very different. But that's, I don't know, maybe too deep for today.
Yeah. One-liners.
Yeah, one-liners. So this is like the final part from the Discord that was asked. What conceptual one-liners, like nuggets, like bang, could we give out that would make someone better now? It's kind of funny, actually. Like, I know I've just been ragging on the idea of like people want things condensed down into 1 minute and not long form. Here we are. But I think there's definitely some benefit to it, especially if it's the right content.
Yeah.
So I'll let you go first. Like, one-liner that you could like bang give out. Someone's going to like turn around to us tomorrow and say, I'm better at jiu-jitsu now.
To break a joint that you want, you got to control the one below and above.
Yeah, that's quite a cool one. So I know someone on the Discord mentioned like the Gordon and Craig Jones fight. That was it, wasn't it?
Yes.
I remember watching it. It was in the quintet.
Yeah, I think it was. EBI one. EBI.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because they went to the armbar thing. And so, and people are on about Gordon's triangle armbar thing. So, and Preet's armbar defense, and this is kind of the crystal thing that kind of got me with Preet's armbar defense, is that most people when they get an armbar in and people are flat on their back, is they kind of lock up their own joints because you're laying flat on your back, and so you're just thinking about your elbow. So the other person's got hold of your wrist, like that has been isolated, and they have you yourself by not moving or maybe holding onto your own hand and staying where you are is isolating your own shoulder, and then because those two joints are isolated, above and below the one that is going to be destroyed, your elbow, you're now in a submission.
Yeah.
If you watch Preet's armbar defense, definitely go find YouTube on that, wherever it may be, or defensive BJJ, it's definitely going to be in there.
Yeah.
He shows how to free the shoulder, and if you can free the shoulder, you can manipulate yourself into a way that no longer the armbar will work. So that's why hitchhikers work, and then Preet's armbar defense works. And so just exactly, take that away, because the amount of like mad armbars out of nowhere that I've generated, not like traditional looking armbars of like lying on your back with my feet over your head, but just like, I don't know, just grabbing hold of like putting my knee across someone's shoulder, pinning their wrist down, and then like pulling on the back of their elbow.
Yeah, armbar.
That's an armbar. I've just applied the concept, but also at the same time, be very mindful when playing this game. Have good training partners that you trust.
Yeah.
Get stuck into submissions, and then see if you can actually move one of those joints. Like, have they fully controlled the other joint? And it's weird, you'll probably find they haven't. And if you can move that joint, does that allow you to actually escape the submission? Probably would. Again, have training partners that you trust that aren't going to just like go snap on your arm or leg or shoulder. But yeah, move. It's why most submissions work. It's like, why Kimura's work. Kimura is a shoulder lock. What do you need to move? It's either elbow or far shoulder, and that's the two things that get controlled. So remove one of them. Yeah, I think that one. I know I kind of stretched that one out, explain that one-liner, but yeah, definitely above and below the one you want is core jiu-jitsu knowledge.
Cool, yeah.
Mine one, actually, when this was kind of asked, I was like, this one instantly came into my head when I was trying to ponder it. I remember, I think it was just as I started jiu-jitsu, grappling, submission wrestling, whatever I refer to what I do is, back in early 2009-ish, late 2008. I was on the Bushido forums, if you've ever been on them.
I've heard of them, but I've never been on one.
So Bushido they were like people who hunted down ridiculous martial art gyms and
cool,
kind of showed them for the nonsense that they are.
That's a good idea.
Bushido, kind of a plan Bushido and bullshit.
Yeah.
And they're kind of talking about BJJ, and this question came up 11, 12 years ago, and the question was, what do you wish you knew? What one line do you wish you knew now? Do you wish you knew back when you started jiu-jitsu that you now know? And one of them was, attackers delete space and defenders create space. And that was always a big one for me, is that I kind of started to understand it more, the whole positional stuff and defensive stuff that kind of moved into, is that if you're the move you're attempting, be it transitional or whatever, or growing a position on someone, is even from the bottom, is I'm trying, if I'm attacking, I'm taking space from you. I'm taking it all from you. And the more I take away from you, the better my attack normally is going to be. If I'm defending, I'm trying to create space. I'm trying to limit your control over me that allows me to then create as much space as possible to get out of that situation. And so that kind of made my shrimping better. Again, I keep mentioning this like every week. I can't wait to get in the gym and show this goddamn thing that I've been working on. Oh my God. But my shrimping got better, and my framing got better, and again, my attacks got better. I'd make sure that there was no space taken away. And was it in this I gave the homework at one point? Was it last week?
Last week, yeah.
Exactly. And this kind of marries into it, as in, your attacks will get better if you can stick to their armpits more, especially in the transitions. So it was a perfect little one line. It's kind of made more sense over time. definitely want to take away. Your turn.
Don't let anyone in the space between your armpit and your knees, and between your heel and your bum.
Butthole.
Well, butthole, yeah. Fight it, fight it. Day one beginner
Don't let
doesn't
me
know
do
how to
that.
fight. Don't know how to fight. Don't know how to shrimp. You want to roll? All right. What do you need to do? Don't let him in there. Don't let him in there. Fight till death. You'll
Yeah.
probably get submitted, but they're gonna have to work 20 times harder to get it.
I think, yeah, completely. I think that's cheating. You coming out of that one. Like, about some more obscure, like that we're not known for.
But we're trying to get it across, aren't we?
Yeah, I know. Low hanging fruit there. Yeah, I think especially if you have anyone join your gym, and I think that's probably the most important time to actually give this bit of information out, is because I think we've had people at our gym like rock up, like, I don't know, like 4-stripe white belts and stuff, and
Yeah.
they've come in lost. Like, they have no idea what the fuck they're supposed to do. You know, they're over. It's kind of like, again, it's this horrible little habit of jujitsu. Actually, this is actually one of the things that I know I rag on traditional martial arts a fair amount. This is one of the parts where I think they have it more correct than BJJ, and I think BJJ are looking at it from the wrong perspective. Is that so? Again, kind of going away from the one-liner thing here, I think. So with traditional martial arts, they have a syllabus and they have a way of giving you the core basics at the very beginning. Oh man, this is going to be lost in a podcast. I may actually make a video of this tomorrow and just put it out there and say, I'm sorry, traditional martial arts. I was a bad boy. I'm going to make this video tomorrow. Like, it was going to come up on the website, I promise. I'm sure something will get in my way. So yeah, they have a method of teaching you the absolute basics. Even traditional martial arts, I know I rag on like Aikido and Kung Fu and everything else in there, but I think there's a slight merit to this, as they have like, this is the absolute basics of our system and we'll work from here. And they have a logical way of giving the information out. There's a problem with that, is that it is slow to give out information, and because of the exam process that those martial arts have before you can go to your next belt, it doesn't allow people to show flourishes of personality or their personal physicality, as in the amount of times when I did traditional martial arts where people would couldn't do a certain throw. Like, okay, but would you need that throw in a fight then? If you can't, if you're half the size that I am and in size and weight, and you can't throw me with this particular throw, maybe that throw isn't for you right now in this exact circumstance. And that's where Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu definitely has a benefit, because you can take what you want and discard the rest. But because of that, because there is no day one really method of giving Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu information out, people just land at various points wherever that night's class was and kind of go from there. And so you do end up having white belts at 3 or 4 stripes or whatever, if you do stripes, who have no idea what the actual core basics of jiu-jitsu are. They're just kind of like, man, I started from half guard, now I'm here. And so having what you've just said about the knees to armpits thing, I think is us doing our best to actually do what traditional martial arts can do better.
Yeah.
Is that what core fundamental knowledge can I give a beginner that makes them not so lost? Put your goddamn knees in your goddamn armpits.
Yeah.
Put your heels in your asshole. Stay like that until you're happy. I think if they can, especially
the funny part is, most people are going to think we're just chatting shit. They ain't going to believe it. Anything what we're just saying now.
Oh no, it's like,
these guys are mad.
No, if you want to see a really happy new person who can roll in their first night and not get murdered, tell them to stick their knees in their armpits and huddle themselves up into a ball. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu doesn't work on them. It's bang, solved. And that automatically makes them feel more comfortable. Now they've got a rough guess on how to actually proceed in this, because anytime they get lost, anytime they feel like shit's going wrong for them, just ball up.
Yeah.
You'll be fine. And Stay balled up. Keep your knees in your armpits and your elbows and your hips, and stay in that kind of hunkered down position, the grilled chicken. Like, go check out my video on defensive, how to defend everything. Like, you'll be way happier after this. But yeah, as far as one-liners go for like making your jiu-jitsu better, especially for brand new beginners or anyone who has lost like in those early days, like first couple of years of jiu-jitsu, I say that's like the most important one. Definitely what you just said.
Last one.
Are you gonna go for it or shall I?
You go for it.
Man, that's the problem. Is like, again, pondering it, I have like banks of these things in my head.
But when it, I know what you mean.
Like, where are we? Like,
I was in the same situation.
I know. I don't want to sit here in silence whilst I think.
Don't be flat. Don't be flat.
Don't be flat. Yeah, that's a big one. And actually, that kind of like, because I was, so don't be flat. Don't be flat. What does don't be flat mean? I'll let you answer that one. What do you think about don't be flat?
Don't be flat. Don't let both your shoulders touch the floor. I need at the same time. So that, no pin.
To kind of stretch it out, I'd actually say that, I think I've explained this one before, is that human beings, the way we are designed, our legs don't work so much when we are on the X or the Y axis. So if you are flat on your back or completely on your side, your legs don't work. You couldn't use your legs to move around. Like, you might be able to bridge a little bit, but no one's really good at it. But if you go off, if I told you to get up, you automatically go sideways on. One of your butt cheek and your shoulder will leave the floor before you get upright. You don't just raise up like a zombie, like a thriller video zombie. Same. Maybe not so much when you're on your front, but even when you're on your front, like one leg always has to come forward first, like but always on a slight angle when we move at our best. So just like to incorporate, a lot of the positions that Preet has, like running man and Hawkins 2.0, baby bridge, all those are based on not being flat.
Yeah.
Wrestling kind of got it right. The ultimate win was getting your opponent to have 2, 3, 4 point pins, like 2 shoulders, 2 hips, get as many of those onto the ground as you can. But the second that some of those lift, your ability to move as a human improves. So look up definitely those positions, because there's going to be a lot of information in those kind of videos. Like, look up stuff like Wim de Putter and Preet Mickelson and any wrestler in the world. Yeah, any wrestler in the world. They got it right. Not having and that's okay. Yeah, actually, I think that goes back into where jiu-jitsu can have a problem again, because everything we do is like, teaching, depending on when this white belt has landed, this brand new beginner. Like, we taught side control. You all start side control flat on your, like, side control defense classes and side control demonstration classes with one person flat on their back.
Yeah.
And that's where you think you should naturally be to defend this position. You would go and flatten your back. But if you can just make sure that you're always angled, not on the X or the Y axis, make sure you've got a diagonal going on with your body, baby bridging and whatever, their ability to control you goes way, way down. Like, you have so much more fighting chance of getting out.
Agreed.
I think that's a good one. That was nice.
Yeah.
Last one. There's always a jab to a cross. There's always a cross to a jab.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Hit that one out. So I don't have like, this isn't like a radio and I've got like a pad here where I can hit like, like noises. Like, oh yeah. Or like a sound of like someone hitting like, like a baseball, like.
Oh, it's like, have you ever seen a fire in the booth at the start when that Charlie Sloth does that thingy?
I've got a pad, like, maybe that's be my next Patreon investment. Like, anyone listen to this, if you want me to have like more sound effects, like, buy merch. But I'll just have to make some up in the future until then. What was I saying? Jab cross. Don't just have the most obvious game. Like, if all you can do in close guard is posture, all you have is a jab. Like, there is a stack. There is, if all you have when someone's on your back is to stack into them and like try and like push into them, like, you have a jab. Like, you can run away just as much. You can go away, stand up. That's your cross. And you should be able to play both at the same time, because the answer, if someone's doing something to stop one, it normally means you can do the other. Like if someone's like breaking your posture in closed guard, it means you can stack into them. If you're stacking into someone and they're pushing against you because they don't want to be stacked on, it normally means you can posture. If you are trying to stand up and get away, move away from them when someone's on your back, they're usually trying to pull you backwards. So stack into them. If you're trying to shrimp, if someone's just past your guard and they're trying to push your shoulder and your knee away to flatten you out, roll away to turtle. Same with if you're playing with a lot of running man, if you've listened to our stuff before and they try to pull you back, cool, shrimp. Like there's a jab and a cross to everything. And not training both, you're literally taking away 50% of your options and making your game very, very predictable.
Yeah.
I think because I said that of like no real breaths, that made it a one-liner.
All right.
I think we're definitely going to come up with more of these. Like, I'm sure there's loads.
Yeah,
maybe
loads.
Make some sort of like small book. Maybe. Maybe we can like when we do the merch, like maybe we can.
Oh yeah,
put
I know
them on there, like how like the whole position submission thing, like fix my jiu-jitsu, like written on the inside of a gi. Maybe.
We're giving our secrets away, Chris.
You've been doing that anyway, but unless they actually incorporate them and the whole gym does, it doesn't matter anyway. Right, but maybe we can put our secrets in plain sight on t-shirts, and maybe when people buy them because the design looks cool, they'll learn some jiu-jitsu at the same time, like I did. As stupid as that idea is, I actually am interested in it. Like that's me up for the rest of the night now planning this. I shouldn't have done that. Oh man, still gonna steal our ideas. Maybe I have to cut this part of the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm too lazy to do that kind of stuff. That's why this is like so freeform. There's no like edits in this.
Yeah.
It's just us going for it. I enjoyed that one. Did you?
Yeah, man. That was. Oh, well, I've enjoyed every single one. I think it just keeps getting better now.
Yeah, it always gets better. But I enjoyed that one. I think that was like some
good
stuff in that one.
Yeah,
I'll listen back to that one and learn something myself. Hopefully, I'm gonna have a really cool podcast on anyone listening. I'll be recording it on Wednesday this week, hopefully. This Wednesday or future Wednesday? Unsure. It could be this Wednesday. A really, really cool coach. Omid, he teaches down in Cardiff, in the UK, Wales. He is like talking to him before, reading his articles and stuff like that. He has developed like how Preet has like constructs for defensive jiu-jitsu. Like Omid's done the same for offensive jiu-jitsu, and he has some pretty high-level competitors under his like wing. So anyone listening, that's gonna be a really interesting podcast. I'm really excited I managed to actually, convince him to talk to me for any period of time. So definitely check that one out. Like massively check that one out.
Yeah, I'm interested in that one. I want to listen to what he's got to say.
Yeah, I was trying to ponder if how you can like BCC someone in emails.
Yeah.
Like carbon copy. I wonder if I could put you like a silent partner in that Zoom and just like have you sit in the background. He wouldn't know you're there, but you could just be listening to that. Yeah, that's it. Give me all this jiu-jitsu information first.
Yeah.
That'd be weird. It'd be like some sort of FBI thing where like
I know, yeah.
That's a pleasure, dude.
Yeah, as always.
Thank you to everyone who has listened to this with whatever platform you have decided upon. Spotify seems to be the main one right now. How odd.
Wicked.
I know, right? I keep looking at all these stats and like we're getting like I think we're over like despite only having a couple of podcasts out at 8 now, we're over like 1,200, 1,500 kind of listeners right now. It's just like how
we're growing.
Listening to this, like go listen to someone important like Gordon Ryan. John Danaher. Awesome. Yeah, cheers to that, Naqi. That was a pleasure, dude.
Nice one. See you soon, man.
See you soon, dude. Ta-ra.